My name is Shelley, and I speak to young women on the importance of self-love and self-awareness. If you haven't had time to watch my video, this is actually going to be my second video, so if you haven't seen the first one, I ask you to please go back and watch my first video after you watch this one. That's fine. But today's topic, I want to talk about our subconscious mind. So Maya Angelou says in one of her famous quotes, "Do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better." Sometimes in life we can know better, but not necessarily do better. Have you ever wondered why? Well, I have. And something I learned later in life that I thought was very interesting that we're not taught when it's not taught in grade school or anything. It was just something that I just came across reading online. And it talks about how our subconscious mind creates and generates 95% of our lives. So what does that mean? Well, the environment you grow up in as a child, the friends you have, the fears you have, your education, the church you attend or not attend, all influences your subconscious mind. So how can we be sure that our behavior is our natural behavior and not a behavior that is learned? So let me give you an example. So research has shown that our subconscious mind starts building from a baby through age, some say 5, some say 6, some say 7, but 5, 6, or 7. So we are not consciously thinking, it's our subconscious mind that's working. So everything you see, you hear, you smell, you fear, all of that is accepted, whether it's good or bad. Your subconscious at that time does not know, well, this is bad information. Let that go. Oh, this is good information. Keep this, hold on to this. It doesn't know that. It accepts everything you see, hear, that's in your environment during that age. So some people may say, well, what's wrong with that? That's not so bad. Well, we don't all the time remember what all went on during that time, good or bad, but it's there. And whatever you have there comes out. So, for example, do you remember when you first started to walk? Do you remember when you first started to talk? Or do you remember when you started to learn how to eat and drink? You don't remember that. Well, some of you may say, oh yeah, I remember. But for the most majority of us, we don't remember that. But when you get up in the morning, you get out of the bed. You get out of the bed and you start walking, right? You don't think, well, how do I do this? Because you remember subconsciously how to do that. You remember how to walk. You remember how to eat. You don't think about, well, I need to pick this spoon up and start eating or something. You just do it. It's automatic because it's in your subconscious mind. So what else do we have stored in our subconscious mind that we're not really aware of? I understand that it could be so deep rooted in our subconscious mind that we're not even aware that we're coming across in a certain way. Like, someone that's mean and have a mean disposition, they have this deep-rooted anger that they don't know where it came from, but it's there and it comes out, but they don't think it comes out. So they don't see it. They're not aware of how they're coming across. They're not aware how when they say certain words, how it cuts through us like a knife. They're not aware of it because they've been doing it for so many years that it's automatic that they are not aware of how they are coming across. So let me give you an example that I struggled with, something that was in my subconscious. I struggled with when I was young, my mother used to complain all the time about she didn't like how she looked. She would complain about, oh, I am so ugly. Why did God have to make me so ugly? And she would just, every now and then, she'll just go on that rampage. And so when she starts again, we'll go, boy, here she goes again. And she'll complain about that. Sorry. And she'll complain about that. So I noticed that when we would go out somewhere, I would go with her to do covers or go to the store with her, or we had company come over and they would always come up to me and go, child, you look just like your mother. Look at you. You look just like your mother. And I would just sit there and I would just grin and smile, because I look like my mother. I'm identifying with someone. But then later, as I started to think about it, and I kind of went like, wait a minute now. If my mother is constantly saying she's ugly, which I don't like using that word, but that's the word she used, and B is equal to me, and I look like my mother, then I must be ugly. And so I stored that into my subconscious mind, and I believed that, and my subconscious accepted it whether it was factual or not. So here's a picture of my mother. This is my mother. Oh, and my dad. Guess you can see where I got my head from. Took years growing to that head. But anyway, I don't think my mother is unattractive. Matter of fact, when I look at this picture, I actually think she's attractive on here. To me, she is. But she didn't believe she was. So she passed that belief on to me, and that influenced my way of thinking, my confidence, how I viewed myself. And it didn't matter who came to me and said, oh, you look nice, or you look this way or that way or something. It didn't matter, because internally I saw myself looking unattractive. So there was nothing in my outside world that anyone could tell me that would change how I felt. I had to change how I viewed myself internally before I could see myself any differently. So I also remember, like growing up, my mother noticed that I had an issue with how I looked. She would say, I don't understand why you don't know you're beautiful. And I would think to myself, because you told me I'm ugly. Well, she never told me I was ugly, but just my hearing her say she's unattractive and I look like her, then I saw myself as being unattractive. So my mother inherited that belief from my grandmother. And So my grandmother passed it to my mother, then my mother passed it to me. Now, if we were to try and backtrack generations past my grandmother, we probably will find someone that did look like Aaliyah. The one, from the Bible that they called her tender-eyed, that they actually had to put a veil over her face so that she could get married. Yeah, I know it was more to the story than that. But they did have to put a veil over her face. But our past generation get a pass because they didn't know better. They didn't understand the effects it had on others or themselves by calling themselves ugly or saying they're stupid or someone's stupid. So they get a pass. We know better. So we need to be more aware of what we're allowing to go into our subconscious, what we're allowing to be in our environment that's negative, that may be just a negative environment that you're just comfortable being in because you think it's okay. You need to be more aware of what your children are allowing to go and learn and be absorbed into their subconscious mind. Because it does affect how we act and behave. So, I actually, when you watch my first video, I talk about going through this wilderness where I went through this deep healing. During that time, I had taken a photo shoot with my 2 adult kids, or 2 adult children. How do you say that? But you know what I mean. And I remember doing a photo shoot with them. And afterwards, I was looking at the pictures and I was thinking, hey, I don't really look bad. And my son was like, Mom, we've been trying to tell you that for years. But again, if we don't believe it, it doesn't matter what anybody in our outside world says. So we need to think about something that you have a negative belief about and think about it and start thinking on words you can say to yourself or comments or affirmation you can say that you can start replacing whatever that is. For instance, if someone told you you were not smart enough to do something that you have always dreamed of doing, then start telling yourself, I am smart enough. I'm created in God's image. I can do anything I desire through Christ that strengthens me. So think about anything that you believe you need to work on and start working on that little bit by little bit. So in unity, we can all live that better that we know of and dream of. I believe that's it. So I want to thank you for watching my second video, and I hope you liked something in my video and will continue to watch me. And if you haven't started following me, please follow me because I will share videos weekly on information, tidbits that I think will be beneficial for any young lady looking for guidance or information that they believe will help them in their journey through life. My name is Shelly. Maya Angelou says, Ask for what you want and be prepared to receive it.